Welcome to the 7th in our series of political candidate forums in advance of the November 5th general election. This forum is a cooperative production of the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, the Tallahassee Democrat, and WFSU Public Media. Our candidates today are running for Leon County Superintendent of Schools. I'm Suzanne Smith with WFSU Public Media, and I'm joined today by William Hatfield from the Tallahassee Democrat and Daniel Irwin from the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee. We'll be questioning the candidates on various topics of interest to the voting public.
The candidates for the Leon County Superintendent of Schools, sitting left to right, are Joe Burgess and Rocky Hanna, who is the incumbent in this race. Reminder for those watching us on social media, please hit the share button and help all your friends see today's discussion live. For those at home, here is how the forums will work. We will rotate which candidate gets to answer first. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to ask the candidates to keep your answers to about 60 seconds, 45 seconds. We'll give you the time. Sometimes it may even be a little shorter for follow-ups. You will know when you've hit your time when you hear this. You don't have to come to a dead stop right then, but finish your sentence and we will move along.
If you're watching live on Facebook and you have a question for the candidates, go ahead and type them in the comments and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Time is very limited, so you can improve your chances of your question being asked if you keep it brief and polite, make it applicable to both candidates. Any questions before we start?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, let's jump in with the first question. Oh, the first question is me. What is the biggest issue in this race, and why are you the best person to address it? We will begin with Rocky Hanna. You have 45 seconds.
Well, I think two of the greatest challenges we are facing right now, one is making sure our kids are back on track coming out of the pandemic. We saw a lot of academic regression and kids dealing with social emotional issues. We've put things in place. We've added additional social workers in our schools. We've added interventionists in our elementary schools to help kids dealing with academic regression and social emotional issues. And the second biggest challenge we face is a teacher shortage, and not just teachers, but paraprofessionals, bus drivers, and others. So we're looking for innovative ways to recruit young teachers to come to Tallahassee. We have a recruiting coordinator now that's over retention and recruitment. Not only recruiting teachers, but recruiting paraprofessionals and support staff as well. But those are the two greatest challenges we are currently facing.
Thank you. Joe Burgess, same question.
All right. So the question, the biggest challenge right now is our struggling schools and also our students that are struggling. How do we meet those challenges? So we have 3 schools right now that are currently Ds. They need intervention, they need help and support now. We need to make sure that we have plans in place, looking at everything from leadership to the curriculum to the teachers that we have on the campus. Are we incentivizing teachers from other schools who have great talents to come to those schools and help revitalize those schools for those communities? We also need to think about our struggling learners that we have, not just at those schools, but at all schools. What are we doing with the curriculum and how we're going to help with that? Of course, I will also agree that the teachers always are part of our plan of trying to help our students.
Thank you.
Regarding school grades, what was your biggest takeaway from district and school grades this year? 45 seconds. We'll start with you, Mr. Burgess.
Mixed bag. The school district did get a grade of B, but I will also tell everyone at home is that no district in the state of Florida got below a C. So it's A, B, and C. So right now we are a middle tier district. I would like to get us back to being a preeminent A district. Right now we're ranked 29th out of 67 districts. We used to be in the top 10. I would like to not only get us back in the top 10, but I'd like to surpass that, get us to actually the #1 ranking. We really have to focus on that. And as I talked about, the schools that have Ds right now, we have to push those up. And schools that are Cs, we have to push them to Bs. And the schools that are Bs, we got to get them into the A range. And so we got to make sure that we're making market progress. We've made some progress with some schools, but we need it with all schools.
Superintendent Hanna.
Let me go back to where I should have started from the beginning. As a lifelong resident of Tallahassee and Leon County, a product of our public schools, and someone's worked their entire adult life with Leon County School District, it's an honor to serve as superintendent. Leon County Schools was 3 points from an A. There is always room for growth and development, but we saw some historic gains at some of our Title I schools on the south side. For the first time in many, many years, Pineview Elementary School was an A. For the first time in school history, NIMS Middle School was a B. Bond Elementary School was 1 point from an A, but there is always room for growth. And so we will continue to build on the successes that we've had over this past year and look for opportunities for further gains in the years to come.
3 public schools, as mentioned before, got a D grade: Appalachia, Fort Braden, and Sable Palm. What must happen this school year to ensure improvement at these schools? We'll start with you, Hanna.
So it starts with leadership. I have full faith and confidence that the leaders we have in place at those schools will get the job done. But they're all Title I schools, and those Title I principals have a lot of pressure. They understand that they're like a head football coach. If they don't perform, then that's it. They're out. And these 3 principals, I have no doubt, will stand up and rise to the challenge to improve. We had Appalachia Elementary School as an example, which had 1 point from a C. But I have full faith and confidence that Dr. Hightower, under her leadership, in partnership with the Department of Education, that we'll make significant gains in all 3 of those schools. And at the end of the day, the goal is not to have any D's or F schools. And we have not had a failing school in Leon County since 2018. But again, there's always room to growth. When you have 40 schools, there's adjustments to be made.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you asked this question because this came up at the State Board of Education meeting on Tuesday, particularly about Appalachia. And one of the things is they were not only just talking about trying to get from a D to a C, but how do you maintain success so that any school does not come back into that position? And one of the things is, and we were talking about particularly with Appalachia, they've had a series of time now, they have struggled. And some of these schools, and so that's why I talked about we have to incentivize Title I schools. You got to give bonuses. You got to make our Title I schools just as attractive as our schools in the other parts of town. And it's really important for us to make sure that we keep the focus on the students, their success, no matter where they are in town. But we have to incentivize our teachers. We have to prioritize the resources. We have to make sure we do what we need to do as far as making those schools a priority.
Why did Sable Palm slip with the community schools partnership and wraparound services for parents and students? We'll start with you, Mr. Burgess.
So I do not personally work with Sable Palm. That would be the superintendent. But I will tell you this. One of the things you have to do is you have to review what the leadership did. You have to look at what teachers you have on campus. And then you have to look at your recruitment and retention of teachers. Like, what are you doing to keep them there? Most of our teachers that come into our schools now come from outside of education. So working with them just 1 year is not enough. When I was a teacher first hired, they only work with you 1 year and you kind of on your own. Now with teachers coming from outside the College of Education, they need more time to be developed and trained for our students now.
Superintendent Hanna.
We had a lot of student mobility around that school over the last several years. They closed shut a neighborhood down, and kids were displaced. We've also had a change in leadership. As I said, the goal is to build systems to have those in place year in and year out, where there's not the ebb and flow of falling from a C to a D or a B to a C. That we have leaders that are in place that can ensure that they're recruiting teachers into the profession, into those classrooms, that are making marketable improvements. But again, there are always areas for growth, and this is one of them.
One of the 5 Leon County charter schools excelled with an A rating for the 2023-2024 school year. The other 4 Leon County charter schools earned average C ratings. What does that tell you about our local charters, and what's your message to parents about that? 45 seconds. We'll start with you, Hanna.
So a strong community must have a strong public school system, and we have just that. Our schools are safe. We provide a high quality, enriching and nurturing education, and we're financially secure. And that's why it's really hard for charter schools to make it in Leon County, because our public schools are so successful. In Bay County, there's upwards of 20 plus charter schools. In Leon County, there's 5, and 2 of those are significantly under-enrolled. And that's just a credit to the job that we're doing with traditional public schools, our school administrators, and most importantly, our classroom teachers.
Mr. Burgess.
So first of all, charter schools are part of the public school system. They have different, situations as far as how they're set up. I'm going to always trust in the opinion of a parent as far as where they take their kids. But yes, I'm going to always believe in the power of the traditional public school. I am a public school child, and I had a chance to grow and learn in there. But we also need to make sure that with our charter schools, that when they are being developed or thought about, that they have the things in place that they're going to serve the community well. We also need to make sure that we're partnerships, because a lot of times these students come back and forth between charter schools and back into the public school. And we need to make sure that we're not losing our kids in between the cracks just because sometimes of personal feelings. I'm going to trust the parents' choice with their kids.
All right, we're going to talk about school safety and emergencies. This year, Leon County Schools has been tested by floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, and a rash of school threats and weapons on campus. We're going to run through the district's response to some of those incidents. We'll start with May 10th tornadoes. They hit at a particularly perilous time in the early morning. How do you grade the response, and what was your takeaway from that? 45 seconds. Mr. Burgess, get us started.
So as far as somebody who actually had to live through that, I will actually grade it about a C minus D plus, and that was because of the communication. We did know that there was a storm coming from 3 to 6 a.m. That was told to us by the National Weather Service. The storm, though, was told that it was going too slow. And if anybody knows, when a storm is slowing, that means it's going to come at a later time. When we were taking in students, I'm a high school principal, when we were taking in students starting at 6:30, we had to shelter in place. And so, and also we then had the situation of when we had to release from school, we actually put ourselves back out because I was on a different side of town where we went out. So we decided to close school altogether. We released during that time, and we actually put ourselves back out in the storm.
All right, Superintendent Hanna, same
So
question.
we've learned a lot since May the 10th. We have a much better job of communication now through our focus system. We're no longer using social media. We had a project in place, a rapid communication system, where now we can communicate in real time through text messages to parents in time of crisis if we need to adjust logistically. So we're night and day from where we are today from where we were back on May the 10th. I'm really proud of those efforts. We'll continue to build on our communication to ensure that we're able to adjust as necessary, because we've seen whether it's tornadoes or hurricanes or floods or winter weather storms in North Florida, we see it all. And as superintendent, job one is school safety. It's the safety of our students and our employees, and we'll continue to learn and grow as far as our communication is concerned.
So speaking of safety, it wasn't so long ago that you stood alongside the sheriff amid a barrage of non-credible school threats that were causing hundreds of students to skip class. What do you think sparked that, and what did you learn from that turbulent time for the future? 45 seconds, Superintendent.
Well, over my 37-year career with our school district, unfortunately, we've witnessed a number of tragedies across the country, whether that's Paducah, Kansas, or Paducah, Kentucky, Columbine, Parkland, and most recently in Georgia. And inevitably, after one of these events occurs, you'll have students that feel like they want to be a copycat almost and put out false pranks and threats, and then we find ourselves reacting to that. We do have two systems where kids can report suspicious activity if they're worried about someone in danger of self-harm or harm to others. That's Fortify Florida and our local anonymous alert app. But we've also told students, this is not a joke. And if you're posting threats to schools, you will be dealt with and dealt with severely. And that's why I was proud that the sheriff stood beside me. Our message is to report, not repost.
Thank you. Principal Burgess, same question.
Okay. So first of all, when it comes to these non-credible threats, they are a reality. The superintendent just mentioned Fortify Florida and our anonymous alerts. They do get real tips, and we get false tips. But we also know, we tell them the statute, a false tip will get you the potential of getting a felony. Fortify Florida comes to the state of Florida. Anonymous alerts is our Leon County system, but it actually comes from Childs High School. We started that system in 2016. It was something that I suggested to the superintendent. To his credit, he did take it and use it across the district. As far as talking to our parents and our families, parents are going to do what they think is best. If they think a school is dangerous, they're going to keep their kids at home. What we have to do is our tact and tone. When we're talking to our parents about dangerous situations, we can't chide them. What we got to do is say, we're going to work with you to make sure that your kids are safe.
Thank you. A month into the school year, the district tallied 5 arrests for weapons on campus. 2 included loaded guns. 1 was in the backpack of a middle schooler with individual baggies of cocaine. That pace seems to have slowed down. Did students get the message? What more do we need to do? Principal Burgess.
Well, As far as we're talking about young people, you have to continue to deliver the message. So just because I gave a message today doesn't mean they remember it tomorrow. So you have to continue talking to them. As far as definitely it has slowed down because you guys haven't reported anything. So definitely has slowed down. But let's talk about, we need to make sure that we're hardening our measures as far as entering campus. I do say this term, you have to go through an inconvenience to get to a convenience, just like when you're at the airport. There's an inconvenience that gets you to a convenience. And so we do have to put in metal detectors. We need that kind of level of safety to ensure to our parents and to the students who attend school every day that they're safe on our schools and our campuses.
Thank you. Superintendent Hanna.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of our school safety program. We serve as a model to other districts across the state of Florida, and we've implemented a lot of practices and protocols. One of the first things we did 8 years ago was insert 50 security monitors into our schools. We have a second deputy sheriff at all of our high schools. We have a weapons detection dog. We have a really vibrant and robust school safety program. We tell our kids the biggest asset we have is them. Then inevitably, when something happens, before it happens, someone knew something. And it's incumbent upon all of us, especially our students, if they hear something, if they see something, to say something. And that's led us to discover these weapons that were brought onto our campuses. Students are speaking out because heaven forbid that something happened, someone knew and they didn't say anything. They would never forgive themselves.
Thank you. Principal Burgess, you mentioned metal detectors. I know the district went to Broward County to get a firsthand look at how permanent metal detectors could work on a daily basis. Is that something parents should expect to be coming to Leon County schools in the year to come? Superintendent Hanna.
Well, we did visit several districts in South Florida to see how that would work, especially in our large high schools. In our elementary schools and our middle schools, we're great. The large high schools, however, live and breathe. As Principal Burgess knows, they never close. And they open in the morning at 7 or 6 a.m., and they don't shut down until late at night. So it's a little, logistically, a little more problematic to see how exactly that would work with 2,000 kids rushing to school and all going through metal detectors. We would also then have to close campuses at lunch, but we're investigating any and all options moving forward. Principal
Burgess, what do you think? Do we need metal detectors, permanent metal detectors on campus?
Yes, and it's very important. I just said you have to go through an inconvenience to get to convenience. Just like people here that love going to games at FSU and FAMU, you go through a screening to get inside, to get to the convenience of being inside. So just like for our students, I know a parent may be sitting home and saying, well, it's not my kid. Well, we don't know if it's any kid. We don't know, but we do need to know that we need to screen our children to make sure that they are safe. It's just, it's a requirement. It is a logistics issue, but you must work with your safety, security, and your principals to get that right.
Thank you.
Moving on to the topic of discipline. For the 2022-23 school year, Leon County Schools reported 230 incidents of drugs on campus. Most of those incidents involved marijuana or hashish. If Amendment 3 is approved by voters in November, how might legalization of the adult recreational use of marijuana impact K through 12 students? Joe Burgess, we'll begin with you, 45 seconds.
Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
Sure. If Amendment 3 is approved by voters in November, how might the legalization of the adult recreational use of marijuana impact K through 12 students?
Potentially it could be more, but being honest, any kind of legal or illegal drugs can always be of influence or potential use by students. So we, when dealing with our students, we don't take the view of nobody will do it and everybody's doing it. What we do is we continually talk to our students about what is best for them, what is best for their bodies. What do they need to be doing? They need to be getting their schoolwork together so that they can have potentials in front of them as far as life. But, as far as how much, I don't know, I'll have to talk to researchers, but anytime something's done, we have to be proactive and make sure that we're talking to our students and making sure we're using social media, talking to them in the mediums that they use to make sure they make the right decisions.
Thank you.
Whether the voters decide to legalize marijuana or not, it has zero place on our campuses. And just like alcohol, we've treated exactly the same. And it's having conversations with young people about healthy habits and the dangers that drugs and alcohol can cause. That's part of the educational process. But we will continue to have zero tolerance for students that bring alcohol on campus or to bring other drugs on campus, whether they're legal or not.
Thank you.
Are you voting for the amendment as a community leader? Are you voting for the marijuana amendment?
I had a feeling this question was coming. As superintendent of schools, William, I'm sorry, I'm not going to support the legalization of marijuana. I don't want to encourage our kids to go places they shouldn't go, and I think it sends the wrong message as superintendent of schools is supporting such an amendment.
Thank you. Principal Burgess, same question.
The same feeling, but I also, as a constitutional officer, you do have to respect the will of the voters. So it's very important that you may feel a certain kind of way, but once the decision is made, then it gets back to advocacy with your students and your parents about what's best for the students.
All right, we talked about school discipline. Let's talk about administrator discipline. Superintendent Hanna, in early 2023, you were investigated by the Department of Education for politically charged statements and infusing your personal views into the administration of the school district. Without admitting guilt, you reached a settlement with the state for a letter of reprimand, a $1,000 fine, and a 2-year probation. In hindsight, do you wish you had done anything differently?
I do not. 8 years ago, I committed that I would always stand as a champion for our teachers, our students, and our public schools, and I meant what I said. And if me standing up and defending our students and employees during COVID, and then standing in defense of our teachers for some of these attacks that have been leveled against them by certain elected officials at the highest level of government in the state of Florida, if I had to do it over again, I'd do it exactly the same way. I will always stand in defense of our students and our teachers.
Principal Burgess, is this an issue in the race for you?
No, I have. If you talk to the voters out there, I haven't even brought this up one time. I'm focused on the students, and that is where the focus should be at all times.
Principal Burgess, late last year, you were put on a 2-week suspension without, after multiple courts upheld the school district investigation that you misused AP funds, and according to a district investigation, falsified district records by approving, signing, and submitting payroll documents he knew or should have known were inaccurate. In hindsight, do you wish you had done anything different?
No, sir. And actually, if you repeat that, first of all, the AP dollars, that was not found that I misused AP dollars. They actually found that the district misused AP dollars. Please research it inside of the court records. The district is responsible for giving 80% of AP funds back to the schools. Currently, they only give 63% back. So that fact right there. What they were talking about was I was paying teachers for additional work outside of their classroom duties, which is a tradition we've all done, including the superintendent when he was at Leon High School. So yes, I stand by what I've done, and I accept whatever punishment comes with that.
Rocky Hanna, is this an issue in the race for you?
It's not an issue, but let's be clear. An independent investigator, a DOA judge, the Leon County School Board, and the First District Court of Appeal found that Principal Burgess falsified timesheets, mismanagement of district funds. He was suspended for 2 weeks. I understand it. I want to pay people more too, but falsifying timesheets is not the way to do it.
Principal Burgess, you got 15 seconds to respond, and then we're going to move on.
So, matter of fact, he said that I tell the truth and I was an ethical person. I did not falsify any timesheets. What he said was I should have known with the operations of 2,000 students and 130 members what everybody had, if everybody had signed their timesheets. And I stand by the work that I've done and continue to do for the district.
Thank you.
Okay, the next topic is declining enrollment. Declining enrollment is a reality in many public schools, including Leon County schools. That prompted a school board member to call for a dialogue on the possibility of closing schools, which has happened in other school districts in Florida. What's the cause of the decline, and does Leon County School District need to discuss closing schools? And when will it need to have such a discussion? 1 minute, we will start with you, Mr. Burgess.
All right. So first of all, that is a discussion that should be talked about all the time. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but you should always talk about it. As far as declining enrollment, 2 things: student experience and safety. And parents will take their kids where they think they are safe and where they think they are learning. Now, I, like the superintendent, will stand up here. We're both going to say we're going to champion public schools. Okay. But if you got people leaving, that means you need to provide a better experience. You need to talk to the community. You have to respect those parents and those kids. There's a reason that they left. They didn't just get up and just say, I'm leaving because of no reason. There's a reason that they left. When it comes to safety, we are talking about the hardening of campuses, but we need to talk about the fights and the issues in the hallways. We actually need more boots on the ground. Teachers can only be in the classroom. They can't be out in the hallways trying to break up fights and things like that. We need more people out there to make our campuses safer, and that is just something that we have to get in order if we want to increase our enrollment and actually remind people that Leon County Schools is the best option for you.
Thank you, Principal Burgess. Superintendent Hanna?
Well, for the first time in history, public tax dollars are going to support private schools and homeschool programs. And it's incumbent upon us to do a better job of marketing and to telling our story. And it's a great story to tell. So we've hired a director of marketing. We've totally revamped our communication systems. And it would be irresponsible of us if we didn't market ourselves. And whether that's at the district, as the brand of the district, or at each individual school. We have now seen, most recently, a lot of kids are coming back. Most of our Title I schools have increased enrollment this fall as compared to last year. So there's a lot to be encouraged about. Rickards High School is an example. We made significant capital improvements to that school. Enrollment was around 1,100. This year, they're over 1,700. So we are seeing a lot of the kids that may have left for something different. The different isn't always better, it's just different. And so now they're returning to us.
I'm going to ask another follow-up that also leads into rebranding. Rocky Hanna, 6 months after the school district's branding and logo campaign, what dividends have you seen? And in hindsight, was it worth the $100,000?
Yeah, when you have over a $650 million budget, $100,000 sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but every student is worth over $8,000. We receive between $8,500 and $9,000 for every student that we lose. So 12 students would pay for the campaign itself, and it was much more than just a logo. It was doing market research, talking to parents about why are you with us, or parents, why aren't you with us, and then using that information to develop strategies to recruit people to come back. And I think now this fall we are seeing the fruits of those efforts, and we'll continue to build on those successes.
Rocky Hanna, we're going to...
Let me get Principal Burgess. In hindsight, was it worth the $100,000?
No, ma'am. First of all, $100,000 is basically 2 teachers. So keep that in mind. Secondly, when it comes to the logo is actually more than $100,000. It's actually over $1 million, because when you are rebranding, you have to put new logos on the buildings. You have to put new logos on the vehicles, all your stationery. There's all these different costs that go with, with this rebrand. And we also didn't even talk to our public. One of the things is as a sitting high school principal, the amount of time I've been in this district, I didn't even know this process was taking place. It was basically just given to us.
Okay.
Superintendent Hanna, you want 15 seconds to respond to that?
I'm not sure exactly where that $1 million figure came from, but again, we're going to do a better job of marketing ourselves, and we're seeing the fruits of that labor come back now as kids return to our traditional public schools, and for good reason, because we offer a high quality education and a nurturing and enriching environment.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will stay with you, Rocky Hanna, for this next question. More than 60% of black students in Leon County's 38 traditional public schools attended Title I schools. Title I schools have high numbers of economically disadvantaged students. Almost half of black students in Leon County schools were in intensely segregated schools, which have at least 90% non-white students. What can be done so our public schools better reflect the racial and economic makeup of our community? 45 seconds.
I was principal at Leon High School for a number of years, and the thing that I valued the most was the diversity that was at that school. The northern boundary was Oxbottom Road, the southern boundary was Orange Avenue. Just think of all the neighborhoods that encompassed, and it was a beautiful thing to see. So I think moving forward, we have to look for strategic ways to ensure that same diversity is reflected in schools across the district. School choice, I think, has added to that problem, but we need to have conversations with our community members and community stakeholders, as well as with the Leon County School Board, of how we can ensure that we have that diversity, the diversity that represents Leon County in schools across the district. And it's a priority for me, and I know it is for the Leon County School Board as well.
Joe Burgess.
So your question was, how do we help with the segregation at certain schools? And so, first of all, we need to incentivize with programs at the schools to make those schools more attractive to the community at large. If we are in a school choice system, you need to give choices at those schools to make them much more attractive that students from across the county will even think about choosing them. Something that's going to really brand them and is going to give them a chance for others to recognize their relevance and what they bring to them. But also we need to have conversations with our city and county commission partners about housing development, where we put in our homes, because housing development is a huge issue. And so we really need to think outside the box as far as what we can provide to make those schools much more attractive to everyone, and make sure that also people in the neighborhood aren't just leaving those schools as well.
Joe Burgess will stay with you for this follow-up. Leon County Schools recently reported that more than 1,000 students were identified as homeless. If elected, what would you recommend be done to support homeless students in 30 seconds?
All right. So first of all, we need to talk to our leaders and our teachers about how do we work with those students, about how to help them be brought into school, but not only that, but how we can help them thrive. Homeless a lot of times also means being very transient. You're in different situations all the time. But we need to we used to have something called student case specialists. We need to make sure that we're working with the families. And this goes back to working with our city and county commissions. Many times those same families are the same families, and we need to work with them on strategies.
Thank you. Hanna.
It is working with other governmental agencies to talk about this problem. It's not just unique to our school district. The struggle is real and the pain is real for a lot of these people. I'm proud of the fact that we now have a dedicated social worker in all of our middle schools and high schools that can help students and parents that are dealing with these issues. But it's having conversations with, again, and I applaud Mayor Daley for bringing us together over the last several years. We've periodically met county government, city government, and the school board to talk about some of these issues, and we'll continue to address them.
Let's talk briefly about party politics. From our vantage point, this is a partisan race that has been remarkably devoid of party politics and party rancor that we have seen in other races. Are we accurate on that? And if so, how did you do it in this hyper-partisan world? Hanna, starting with you, 45 seconds.
Well, for many years, I've said there's no place for politics in our public schools, and I meant that. Unfortunately, coming out of COVID, our public schools have been thrust into the political arena. But as far as I'm concerned, we're both former history teachers. I was a former American government teacher. It was my job to educate our students on the different parties and the platforms, not to try to encourage them one way or the other. And so this time I am running as a Democrat. I've been a registered Democrat my entire life. The Democratic Party has been in support of our traditional public schools, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm a Democrat. But at the end of the day, there's no place for politics in our schools other than to educate children in our form of government. Principal
Burgess, same question.
Yeah, so as a lifelong independent, non-party affiliated, I'm actually someone who I read the George Washington's second inaugural address and his farewell address, where he talked about party factions. Back then with the British system, it can ruin a country. And so I champion that people can be in any party that they want to. It's just that you got to make sure you're serving the people. So as a school person, when I'm talking to my staff, I remind them that they have to be neutral. They have to always remain neutral and just teach. Just do those things. Do not bring your personal politics inside the classroom or inside the school.
Thank you.
Joe Burgess, we're going to stay with you for this next question. Beginning with the 2026-27 school year, Florida law requires school districts start middle school classes at 8 a.m. and high school classes must not start before 8:30 a.m. What challenges and opportunities does this law present for Leon County schools? 45 seconds.
Okay. So this is something that I have talked about during the campaign, the school start times. It is something that we have to address. The biggest challenge is the way of work, especially with, if your high schools are starting later, a lot of times your high school students for certain families are part of child care for the younger students, for the younger siblings. You also have issues about when kids go to work. Most of our kids get out of school at 1:50, so by 2:30 they're already working. So if you start school later, they also are starting work later. Right. So there's things about when your practice was, when your extracurricular activities are. But we also need to work with our bus system. with our early child care centers. So there's a lot of logistics that aren't just inside the school system that we have to help solve before we make our decisions about that.
Rocky Hanna?
And I agree with Principal Burgess. It would cause significant challenges for us. We have met with our lobbyists this year and talking to our local delegation to repeal this law before it is enacted in 2026. The only way for us to accomplish this would be to basically flip-flop elementary and high school start times, which then is putting 6 and 7, 8-year-olds out on the street in dark, and that's a very dangerous situation. And so we are hopeful that the legislature will see through this. Districts across the state of Florida have raised this as an issue of concern, and we'll continue to push back. But if it does stay in place over the next 2 years and we're forced to enact it, the only way for us to accomplish that I can see right now is to flip-flop elementary and high school, and we do not want to do that.
Shifting now to teacher pay, Rocky Hanna, to pay teachers more, some districts have opted to raise property tax rates to support salaries. Should Leon County Schools consider the same? 45 seconds.
I'm really proud of what we've accomplished over the last 8 years in the area of teacher salaries. You know, the governor's initiative to bring us to 47.5, which we've accomplished. So over the last 5 years, the state of Florida has given Leon County Schools $12 million towards beginning teacher salary increases. On top of that, we've layered another $14 million. Teachers today, beginners and veterans alike, like my wife Christy, are making at least $1,000 more per month than they were making 5 years ago. The work is not done. We've had conversations before about an increase to the millage rate. I am not considering that because that's a temporary Band-Aid right now. It's good for 4 years, and after 4 years, if the voters do away with it, then you're in bad shape financially. And so we have to be very careful before we go to the voters with that referendum. Joe
Burgess, same question.
Yeah, so I do believe that we can pay the teachers more without doing a tax increase. First of all, we need to reorder our budget, reprioritize it. We've given bonuses, we've given more pay to executives, including principals, but we need to give that priority to our teachers. Every dollar that we can give to them is an immediate impact towards our students. So if we're prioritizing our students, we pay our teachers more, because when they leave and they walk out, having a sub inside of a classroom is unacceptable to a parent and a family. And so that is where I would prioritize.
Well, sticking with the topic of teachers, Joe Burgess, are teachers supported in terms of professional development? What, if any, changes would you make? 30-second follow-up.
Yeah, so right now, as far as them getting professional development, right now we have no professional development dollars. Right now it's tied up in staff. And so in order, as you want to become better, you have to go out and train. That goes with teachers, and that goes with leaders. That goes with support staff. You can't assume that you have all the knowledge when you walk in the door. It's evolving. Kids change. Curriculum changes. And so you have to continue to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward. There's things we can learn here within the district, or there's things we can learn outside of our district.
Rocky Hanna.
Yes, ma'am. So I disagree with Principal Burgess on this issue. We have a very robust professional development department. We just do it all locally. So we have people internally, instead of sending people to Atlanta and to Vegas and Orlando and paying for hotels and travel. We hire people internally that can do PD within our own school district. So I'm really proud of the job we've done with professional development as we get feedback from our teachers about what they need, and not just teachers, our paraprofessionals in professional development as well. We have a very robust department, and we'll continue to build on that.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to do a very brief lightning round, which is one-sentence answers. You, of course, can add a conjunction, because, but not run-ons. However, I'm going to break the rules immediately and give you 30 seconds on this first one. You are both Leon County School District leaders. What is one thing you admire about your opponent? 30 seconds, Rocky Hanna.
I admire his relationship with students. Joe's we're a lot alike. We're there, we show up, especially for our kids, and that means a lot. The greatest years of my career was that of being a high school principal. I'm not sure exactly why he wants this job, but being a high school principal was without a doubt the best job ever. Working with that age group of 14 to 18-year-olds, it was just a dream come true. But in many ways, we're a lot alike, and especially it's that relationship with our students.
Thank you. Principal Burgess, same question.
Yeah, I admire his love of here locally. Like we actually coached together many years ago, so I know he talked to me about growing up here and all the great traditions and things that are here. So I do admire the way that he cares about the traditions and things that have brought us all together to be a part of Leon County and Tallahassee.
Thank you. All right, this one's tough. As superintendent, what do you see as your single most important constituency? Students, parents, or faculty? You can only pick one. Principal Burgess.
Oh, students.
Okay.
Students.
Not tough at all. Never mind. All right. Happy bicentennial. Tell us one person in Leon County history you admire and why. Rocky Hanna.
Wow. Bob Graham. I grew up with the Graham family. He was an amazing leader. I admired him as the governor, the way he served and the way he was willing to get in and work with people and not only talk the talk, but walk the walk.
Thank you. Principal Burgess.
So I'm just going to take my time here where I've been here in Tallahassee, but if I was going to choose one individual, it would be actually Reverend R.B. Holmes. He is somebody who works across the aisle with all kinds and working on issues. And sometimes he's with the crowd and sometimes he's going against the crowd. And so I do admire that. And he's somebody I look to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the streaming of school board meetings, or should it be streamed in a different way? Principal Burgess.
No, it's got to be better. Listen, as far as mediums, we should get out our board meetings, anything about our schools in as many mediums as we can.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Superintendent Hanna.
I am satisfied. You can go to our website and click on the live stream at any time. My 83-year-old mother doesn't have a problem getting in, so I don't think anybody else would as well.
All right. We're tired. We've been asking all the questions. What's one question you'd like to ask your opponent, and your opponent will have 45 seconds to answer? Superintendent Hanna, get us started.
I don't have a question for Mr. Burgess. I know Mr. Burgess. We've worked together for 2.5 decades now. I just want to thank him for the way he's handled this race. We unfortunately see a lot of contention in a lot of other races at the state level, national level, and locally. That's not us. He's a good man and a wonderful leader, and I just want to thank him for the way he's handled this race.
Thank you. Mr. Burgess, your turn.
Yeah, so just a point of clarification, just for our young leaders. I know back in, and I do agree, our race has been pretty, hopefully we've kept it not with a lot of contention, but what would you advise for our young leaders? I know like back in 2010, you and I were both principals. You were at Leon and I was at Swift Creek. And there was this huge issue, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was in 2010, and Barack Obama was giving his speech the first time, and at your school, they didn't see it, and at Swift Creek with me, they did. Like, if those kind of issues come up, what would be your advice to the young principals or even some of the veteran principals who haven't been through some issue like that, as far as how do they handle that with their community? So
what he's talking about is during Barack Obama's inauguration that a lot of schools showed that live. We had technology issues at Leon's.
I mean, the speech. You remember when he gave his speech to the schools? That was 2010. That was 2 years after he got elected.
Well, I turned 60 this year, so me thinking back 13 years, I'm like,
yeah.
No, but I was a huge Barack Obama fan. I'm again a registered Democrat. I've been a Democrat my entire life. I think it's important that we do the best we can to show as much in real time as we possibly could. I think, if I remember correctly, the technology at Leon wasn't suffice, and we ended up having to tape the speech and then show it to our students. But again, it's hard for me to remember exactly what happened 13 years ago.
Yeah, just curious.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We got both questions?
Yep.
Okay. So we briefly mentioned tech in the classroom. Studies have concluded that students' use of smartphones in classrooms decreases comprehension and increases anxiety. School board policy prohibits the use of wireless communication devices in the classroom for non-education related communications. Some parents and teachers complain that this policy is not consistently enforced. How do you respond, and is it time for Leon schools to go harder or pursue an outright ban? 45 seconds. We'll start with you, Rocky Hanna.
You're looking back and forth at it. So recently I've gone around and visited. I still have to go to Childs, all of our high schools to talk about school safety measures and school safety protocols. And the issue of cell phones came up. Of course, the kids were adamant that, oh, no, we need these phones, or how are parents going to communicate with us? We do have a policy in place. They're not allowed in instructional time. In middle schools, they're not allowed at all during the school day. In high schools right now, they can use them in between classes and at lunch. We will continue to talk to parents, our district advisory council, and students to get more information as far as that policy being strengthened. But the rules are rules, and it's like any other rule. It could be dress code. Some teachers enforce it a little more diligently than others. But if we have a rule, then we need to follow it.
Joe Burgess.
Yeah, so cell phones is a tough one, right? Because so people forget, after Columbine, if you remember, that was 1999, students a lot of times then they were prohibited from having cell phones. And parents then at that point said, we want our kids to be able to communicate with us, right? And so now we've had time to look at things and say, okay, now those communications are now interrupting class. So it's all about trying to find the right balance. And I think part of this approach is we need to look at some of the other districts across the United States, not just Florida, but across the United States, how they're handling it, and find the right tone and tact as far as what our measures need to be. But those phones are definitely distracting to the instruction.
As a follow-up, what place does artificial intelligence have in the classroom? Principal Burgess, we'll start with you. Well,
first of all, being honest, we don't know enough about artificial intelligence. I do know it definitely leads to cheating, right? And as far as, do we know somebody really has learned something? That becomes the difficulty. And actually, if you talk to your college professors, they're dealing with that in an even greater scale. And so we have to be strong as far as making sure that we know our kids are reading and writing with their own abilities. AI can assist, but it should not be the main thing as far as instruction and learning.
Rocky Hanna.
And we'll continue to address, as technology advances, then we have to adjust and adapt over time. I mean, it's here. There's no pushing back, and it's just a matter of how we deal with it as a public school system. But it's a challenge that's to be faced all over the world.
Rocky Hanna will stay with you for this very important topic on mental health. Leon County Schools Student Services Department is comprised of psychologists, social workers, counselors, and referral coordinators. Does the current funding level and staffing plan provide students with the support they need? What, if any, changes in student services will you pursue? 45 seconds.
So we have three things that pull at our purse strings. One is additional things in class, instructional materials and supplies. Two is additional staff, and three are salary increases. And all of that pulls at the monies that we have available. We have, over the last several years, added a second guidance counselor at all of our elementary schools that only had one. I've talked about we've added additional social workers in all of our middle schools and high schools. We have 2 licensed therapists that we brought on district-wide. We have a contract with Big Bend Hospice in Dis Village to provide support services. We have committed significant resources in the area to ensure that our students are taken care of, and if they are dealing with mental health issues, that we're able to help them on site or to get them the resources they need in the community.
Thank you. Joe Burgess.
Yeah, so first of all, it's never enough. But it does go back to your budget priorities. Now, as far as there were positions rolled back, mental health counselors, you need mental health counselors. That's why we have the things like anonymous alerts. Our kids, sometimes their suffering is out loud and sometimes their suffering is in silence. But there's suffering that happens. Sometimes it's even with the family, right? We have to ask those questions. Sometimes it's family help that we need to give our families. But we do need to refocus our efforts. We need to get more staffing that helps in those areas, because when students are in better mental capacity, they learn better.
Thank you.
According to Penn, America and American Library Association, Florida leads all other states in the nation, both in the number of books challenged for removal and in the number of books removed from public classrooms and libraries. How has Leon avoided public book challenges that have engulfed other districts, and how many books have been removed from libraries during internal reviews? You have 30 seconds for this. We'll start with Hanna.
So we have over 400,000 selections in our public school libraries, and that's not even counting all of the classroom libraries that our teachers have. So there's a lot of books. And from time to time, we may have books that have been donated that were inappropriate. And if we come across those, we immediately get them off the shelves. And what I've asked Moms for Liberty and other groups to do, if you have books and titles that you think are inappropriate, bring them to us. And we'll do the research instead of going through this big political show. I'm proud of the work we've done. And if we have books on our shelves that don't belong there, we'll take action.
Principal Burgess.
Yeah, so first of all, people can always agree to disagree, but we have a process in place. And part of that is making sure that we work with our community about what they can do, and then also working with our school leaders and our teachers about what our role is. And so when people challenge, there is a process that they do. We don't make anyone feel good, bad, or indifferent. We just tell them what the rules are, and we let our process take place. And so I remember when we first put the policy in place, there was more challenges, but over time, those things have decreased.
Childs High School found itself in the viral glare when national publications began reporting that Governor DeSantis's memoir was on a summer reading list. What did you learn from that? 30 seconds. We'll start with you, Principal Burgess.
Yeah, that the world is partisan. I mean, honestly. So if you look on there, we also had a book about Justice Sotomayor, right? So my teachers, they want to give the kids books of leaders that they would look up to. And I promise you, every student that I have is not going to look up to the governor. Every student's not going to look up to Justice Sotomayor. But they should have the option. And if you actually look at what we had on there, it actually says you could look at any book. So those were suggested books. But I think we found out about our community.
Superintendent.
So we give a lot of autonomy to our high school principals. It's one thing that I appreciated during my time as a high school principal. He's the leader of his team. He is the head coach. And to his credit, he stood up. He's explained the reasoning and the logic behind it. And I respect him for that.
All right, let's go back to COVID times. Not that I want to, but with the benefit of time and distance, what's your biggest takeaway from the volatile pandemic period? And what do you wish you had done differently in hindsight as we've learned more? Superintendent Hanna, 45 seconds.
Well, I said from the very beginning, I thought it was a mistake to close our schools down, to shut them down. I was hoping that we could kind of firefight it, school by school, class by class, without shutting the whole system down. I said that from the very beginning. The disappointment is in the adults, and we took a piece of cloth and made it a monster, and that was extremely disappointing. But we didn't know what we didn't know, and we were just trying our very best to keep people safe and alive. And whether that was our students or that was our teachers and employees. And I'm very proud of the job that we did. I am. We have never faced this in our history, in our lifetime, and hopefully never will again. There were a lot of lessons learned, but I'm proud of what our teachers did.
Principal Burgess, same question.
No, I mean, thankfully we got through it, but yeah, there were things to learn from it. Number one, we need more dialogue. So when it was going on, I'll be honest, as a school district principal, I had not looked at any more board meetings than during that time. But there were times when decisions were made and we actually found out from the parents. One thing that I would have done at home for education, I would have given them laptops. Those bulky desktops made it difficult for those kids to learn at home. They needed laptops. For whatever reason that they decided to stay at home, we should have made sure we were supporting them to help them in a return to school.
All right. Figures show high school graduation rates have declined since the pandemic. What will you do to improve graduation rates for Leon County's traditional public schools? 45 seconds. Principal Burgess.
Okay. So first of all, this goes back to making sure we have more teachers and we put more programs back in school. We also need navigators to help our kids in school. But something that we don't talk about enough in our schools is articulation. The transition from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school. Now, you said I brought up elementary school and I'm talking about graduation. If you don't have those smooth transitions in place, if we don't have curriculum that's set up to make sure the kids can move from elementary, middle to high school, we're not working on their success and leaving in that 4 years of time, because it's very hard for you to be a 19, 20-year-old side of a high school. But we really need to get back focused on what's going to help these kids transition and move into the adulthood.
Superintendent Hanna.
Prior to the pandemic, our graduation rate was over 94%, ranked number 5 in the state. Our African-American graduation rate was over 91%. The pandemic took its toll, especially on the African-American community. Statewide, during the pandemic, 55% of students were in school and 45% were in home. Leon County was just the opposite. Only 45% of our students were in school and 55% were at home. It's just going to take a little time, but I have full faith and confidence that this year we'll see remarkable improvement from last year, that we will get those numbers back where they were pre-pandemic.
All right, y'all did it. This is your opportunity to deliver closing arguments and speak directly to the voters. We are going to start with you, Principal Burgess. You have 1 minute.
Okay. So first of all, thank you to everyone out there who's had the opportunity to watch. Thank you all for giving us an opportunity. We appreciate it. So I'm Joe Burgess, son of Joe and Liz Burgess. Grew up a military brat. I made Tallahassee home. I came to Florida State in 1994, and I've stayed ever since. I'm a former classroom teacher, actually Teacher of the Year. I've been an assistant principal, and I've been a principal at all 3 levels: the elementary principal, high school, middle school principal, and the high school principal. I don't take this moving on trying to become superintendent lightly. It took a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, but I do know I have the ability to lead this district and get us back to the preeminent place in the top 10. If you give me that chance, I will serve you proudly.
Thank you. Superintendent Hanna, close us out.
I'll go back to where I started. As a lifelong resident in this community, a product of our public schools, it's an honor to serve as superintendent. I love Tallahassee. I love Leon County. I made some promises 8 years ago. And I'm very proud of the job that we have done. We have pushed more resources than ever down into our schools. Our schools are safer than they've ever been before. We've given historic raises to our teachers and support staff. We've done some amazing capital improvement projects without incurring any new debt. We've actually reduced capital debt by $170 million and have Leon County schools on track to be 100% debt-free by 2028. In addition, we tripled the number of career technical programs we have in our high schools. And we've also created a Littles to Leaders program, partnering with the Early Learning Coalition and private providers to address kindergarten readiness numbers. I'm very proud of the work we have done, but the job is not yet finished. With another 4 years in office, we can continue to build on our successes and ensure that Leon County schools will be vibrant in the years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates and to our audiences for joining the League of Women Voters of Tallahassee, WFSU, and the Tallahassee Democrat for this program. You can find a replay of this forum on our YouTube pages, tallahassee.com and WFSU.org. The recorded broadcast will be aired Monday, October 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern on WFSU 88.9 FM, so tell your friends.
And remember, early voting for the general election begins October 21 and ends November 3rd. Election Day takes place on November 5th.
And you can look for our special online ultimate guide to the Tallahassee elections at tallahassee.com starting on Monday with this race and all the races. Again, that's available on tallahassee.com. I want to thank the amazing crew here at WFSU for making this seamless and keeping us on time. Thank you all in the audience land for watching. Have a great day and vote wisely.